Hey guys, Jacqueline here, Zenith Home Loans. Hope you're having a great day so far. Today, I wanted to touch on the affordability of homes today versus where they were a couple of months ago, even. So, what we've seen a lot, obviously, with the Fed increasing rates and everything that's been going on in the global economy, is rates have gone up quite a bit this year. And we have seen a huge swing in rates just since April of this year. So, what we also saw in the beginning of the year is a lot of what we saw over the last couple of years with the really low interest rates and just the amount of people in the market and the lack of inventory is we saw clients going in and offering well above list price, so 5 to 10%, if not more, and covering appraisal gaps. And so what we're seeing now today is that we're not having to have these appraisal gap coverages. I haven't seen an appraisal gap coverage on a contract in a while. Most of the time, we're not having to see or not having to have clients go in and submit offers above the list price. Sometimes we can even get them for less or even adding in some closing cost concessions. And so I recently reviewed a scenario with a client. So I'm going to share my screen so you can kind of see the breakdown here. And so we originally had them pre-approved earlier this year. That's going to be option here, the first one here. And so we were looking at a condo. We were utilizing CHFA down payment assistance because they needed a $20,000 appraisal gap. And this is the best way for us to get them access to that extra cash. So we're having to bid up on the property, give a $20,000 appraisal gap. The interest rate was at 5.375 at the time. And that was getting our payment to $2,800, and they needed about $27,000 for closing. Now, fast forward to June of this year, we don't necessarily need an appraisal gap anymore, but we still have this higher interest rate. So rates had jumped up to 6.5% at that time. And so for that same property, now we're paying $400,000, but no appraisal gap. But now my payment's $3,000, and I only need the $7,500 because I don't need that appraisal gap in there. I'm probably still competing, but again, no appraisal gap coverage because we're not seeing those big jumps in list and offer price. And then today what we're seeing is maybe we can still get that property for 400 or even 390 with a $5,000 seller credit to use to offset the closing costs. So rates have come down a little bit since June from 6.5 to 5.75. So our payment's not quite as low as it was back in the spring, but now I only need $2,400 for closing. So a lot of what I've seen in the market right now is a lot of clients have gotten scared off of getting into the market because interest rates have gone up. But what they're missing is that this is still a really great opportunity to get into the market because of the leverage that you have as a consumer. There's more properties available. Properties are sitting for a little bit longer, and you can get in there and get a good deal. You're not having to offer way above list. You're not having to come to closing with a bunch of extra cash for an appraisal gap coverage. And in a lot of times, we're seeing you be able to go in and ask for seller concessions. And we haven't had seller concessions regularly on transactions for quite some time. So as scary as the jumps in interest rates have been and can be for some clients, this is actually leaning towards a more normalized market, which is what we need. It's creating a little bit of an influx in inventory, which we also need. There's a little bit less demand, which helps our consumers who are needing to get into a new home right away. And so this does all kind of come to a conclusion that there is a lot more affordability, even though the interest rate is a little bit higher. And what we've been saying, if you've seen some of my other videos, is marry the house, date the rate. In all likelihood, you're not going to stay in this house for 30 years. If you do, you're not going to stay in that loan for 30 years. Probably going to see some refinance opportunities for a variety of reasons. That's how we talk about your home equity and everything else. So even though these interest rates have gone up, prices have come down a little bit, or they've more stabilized or normalized. And there's a lot more opportunity to get in there and get some closing cost credits and not have to overpay for a property that you would have paid $20,000 more for 6 months ago. So it really does create some opportunity. And we want to make sure that you and your consumers and your buyers know that so that they're not turned off by this market right now. If you have any questions, let me know. The link to the Mortgage Coach presentation or our TCA will be in the messages. Thanks.